They're doing the pledge. Please stand.
Join me in prayer. O Lord of rain and sunshine, of land and ocean, of residents and visitors, of saints and sinners, we humbly come before you this morning, asking for your presence among us, only to find you are already here. You come before us to pave the way for sound judgment and wise decisions that will contribute to kingdom living here on earth. If only we mortals perceive and hear you. The business of our county commissioners is always that of contrasts, with issues that seem to cry for either-or decisions, to expand or to restrict, to protect or to boldly risk, to move forward or take a step back, to use or to conserve. In those decisive moments, Lord, guide our commissioners to act with wisdom and discernment beyond their own human abilities, given the kind that comes from a close walk with you. And whenever possible, God, help us to remember that your perspective often is not limited to either-or answers, but a broader, more inclusive viewpoint that opens up possibilities for both and decisions, growth and careful reserving, prosperity and consideration of the needy, use of our natural resources and safeguarding our limited supply. Such an expanded viewpoint does not come easily for us, God, but with your presence and power, we know our commissioners can lead the way. Bless them in their efforts today and help all of us work together as a community, as one team, willing to set aside self-interest for the sake of the greater good. We pray this as your children, confident and dependent upon your amazing grace. Amen.
Amen.
Please face the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions or deletions from the agenda? I believe we're going to add the Freedom Shrine proclamation, and that will be under A5A2, right after the other proclamation, please. And we're going to delete 8N and J from the consent agenda. Any other additions or deletions? I have a motion.
Move to second.
As amended?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We have a presentation of a proclamation designating June the 27th, 2008 as National HIV Testing Day in Indian River County. Commissioner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Clayton Weiss. I have the distinct pleasure of presenting the following proclamation designating June 27, 2008 as National HIV Testing Day in Indian River County. Whereas HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, can be prevented through education, counseling, and testing. And whereas, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the number of persons aged 50 years and older living with HIV and AIDS has increased in recent years. And whereas Indian River County statistics indicate that the number of reported cases are largely between the ages of 13 through 59, and reported HIV cases having increased 17% from December 2006 to December 2007, also showing little disparity between male and female. And whereas the HIV disease can be managed by receiving services offered by public and private healthcare providers as well as certain outreach programs. And whereas in September 2006, a group of 22 Indian River County organizations formed a comprehensive network known as the HIV/AIDS Awareness Network of Indian River County. And whereas this coalition partners in efforts to reduce the spread of HIV/AIDS through education and testing of residents of Indian River County and to encourage treatment for all those testing positive. And whereas the vision of the HIV/AIDS Awareness Network of Indian River County is to pass the message, not the disease. Now therefore be proclaimed by the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners that June 27, 2008 be designated as National HIV Testing Day, and the Board urges all citizens of Indian River County to join in the efforts and observances designated to increase the awareness and understanding of AIDS, HIV as a global challenge, duly adopted this 17th day of June 2008, signed by all 5 county commissioners.
Thank you. We thank you all very much for your support in this, and I just want to make sure I thank all the members here today. They come to monthly meetings and they participate in activities all the time, and it's on a volunteer basis. So I just want to make sure that they know they're appreciated for their support and their work.
Clayton, I see you have a rather large crowd with wearing a very special T-shirt today, and you have a few photographers here. Would you like the opportunity to take a picture with them with the County Commission for awareness?
Sure. Yes.
Well, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You want to just cue right on up here? Yeah, if you just push them in the back, line them up.
Well, I better stay. You're going to get me in here next. How are you doing?
We might need 2 rows, I guess, to get everybody in.
Yes, the testing?
After we do the
After we...
do it after the picture. Just
I'm a bigger one, so I don't need
all right. We ready?
to make the line a lot longer.
The line just got wider.
We're all in.
Oh, this is a ordeal.
This is a big crowd.
Yeah.
Thanks for your phone call.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. For all your efforts, too. Proclamation, too.
Thank you.
Well,
Good to
I
see
already
you.
talked about that.
Hey,
All right.
hey, good to see you. Oh, good.
Thank you, Clayton. Oh,
Thank you.
My name is John May, and I'm the patient care outreach worker for HIV/AIDS,
you.
represent the Indian River County Health Department. And if anyone would like to be tested, you can reach me at 772-794-7477 for free, confidential, and anonymous HIV testing. It's a mouth swab. It takes about 10 minutes. It takes 2 weeks for you to get your results, and I'll be there whenever you need me.
thank you, John.
On the 27th of June, we will be out in the front here from 9 to 11 and offering to our county commissioners too. Amen.
Thank you, John.
Well, I'll have them all lined up.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you again for coming. We appreciate it.
You didn't.
What was that?
I said they want to test our AIDS.
Okay. We have another proclamation. Would Eric please come forward from the airport? This is designating June 18th, 2008 as a Freedom Shrine Day in Indian River County. Good morning. Whereas the National Exchange Club developed the Freedom Shrine, an impressive permanently mounted collection of important and historic American documents, and whereas the Freedom Shrine originated from the Freedom Train that toured the nation in 1947 in order to remind all Americans that the freedom and greatness we enjoy today are gifts that must be cherished and protected. And whereas the Exchange Club of the Treasure Coast has sponsored a Freedom Shrine that includes the Bill of Rights, the Mayflower Compact, the Declaration of Independence of the United States, and the U.S. Constitution, to be displayed upon the walls of the reception area of the Indian River County Supervisor of Elections. And whereas the Exchange Club of the Treasure Coast will be dedicating this shrine to the citizens of Indian River County on June the 18th, 2008, memorializing these documents, which through culled from the past are the foundation stones that permit the present as we know it to exist, and the future as we dream it to be attainable. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Indian River County Board of Commissioners that June 18, 2008 it be recognized as Freedom Shrine Day in Indian River County, and the board further encourages all citizens, young and old, to stop by and read with their own eyes the immortal words of inspired Americans who so decisively changed the course of history. Duly adopted this 17th day of June 2008, signed by all 5 county commissioners. Glad to have you, and glad that you're presenting this to the community.
Well, thank you, Ms. Bowden, and thank you for doing this for us. I think you all know that Commissioner Bowden is also a member of Exchange of the Club of Vero Beach. We have 8 Exchange clubs in this area, and we felt it was just apropos to be able to dedicate this Freedom Shrine tomorrow. Some of you may know that the 14th of June was the 233rd birthday of the United States Army. It's the military that provided our freedoms over all these years, and we'd like to dedicate this shrine tomorrow. Everybody's welcome to come out at 5:30 out of the Supervisor of Elections office. We thought it's a perfect place to dedicate the shrine, since the voting that we are allowed to do, our privilege of voting, gives us the freedoms that we have. So we ask that no matter who you vote for, you go ahead and sign up and register to vote. I'd like to introduce the president of the Exchange Club of the Treasure Coast, if I could, the incoming president, David Hooper, who has just a couple words to say.
Good morning, David.
To say thank you. We're very honored to be able to bring this exhibit to the new building, and we just want to invite you all tomorrow evening at 5:30 to attend the dedication. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
You want to introduce everybody else with you?
Sure. Well, behind me I have Joe Coakley, who is a longtime member of the Exchange and well-known in the community. He's the past president of the Florida District, as a matter of fact, for the entire state of Florida for Exchange, and is a member of the Treasure Coast Exchange Club. And also have Georgia Irish, who's with me here, a longtime member of Exchange Club. Robert Poe, who is with a contractor in town. And Robert, you're new to the Exchange Club of the Treasure Coast, so I probably have to ask you to say a couple of things about your company if you like. And he's actually the guy in his crew who has installed the Freedom Shrine at the Supervisor of Elections office yesterday. But it'll be dedicated tomorrow. And then David Hooper, of course, is with RBC Bank.
Oh.
President of the club.
Well, thank you, and we're glad to have you and glad to do this.
Absolutely.
See you tomorrow. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for what you're doing.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Good job, Eric.
David, thank you. Nice to meet you, buddy.
Hi. Yeah.
Didn't know you were getting speaking part, did you? Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, David.
Okay, good to see you. Bye. Okay.
Do you want
I did, but there.
What's next? Guess not.
We have a presentation by the Florida Water Star Coordinator, Desiree Urin. Did I pronounce that right? Deidre. Okay, thank you. From St. John's River Water Management District. Good morning. Is your mic on?
There you go.
Just bring a little closer
Sorry.
to you, man.
Good morning. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to come speak about the Water Star program today. Let me go ahead and get started. When I give these presentations, I like to remind people about the mission of the St. John's River Water Management District, that we have a somewhat difficult task of ensuring the sustainable use.
You just bring it a little, you can slide it closer to you as well.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, we're having a little mic problem too.
Ensure the sustainable use and protection of water resources for the benefit of the people of the district and for the state of Florida. We've worked for many years with water conservation through our regulatory programs and our outreach programs, but in newer homes and existing homes throughout the district and hopefully throughout the state. And the Florida Water Star program is a voluntary certification program for builders and home buyers, which guarantees a minimum level of water efficiency. So for years, we have worked with homeowners to reduce their water use in their homes with an existing structure. This program looks at building our homes a little differently so that they will ensure that same level of efficiency or an improved level of efficiency from the outset when the homeowner actually moves in. It can also be applied to homes that are being renovated or retrofitted in any way. Our goal for the program, which we're just entering our research phase now, is 40% savings in the outdoors, 20% savings inside the home. We're looking at the landscape, the irrigation system, and also obviously the inside water uses. Typically, this is a chart telling us a little bit about how we are using the water in our state today. You can see that over half of our water is in the outdoors, and therefore this program looks to focus on the outdoors and maximize water savings in the landscaping and irrigation components of our homes. And also you can see clothes washing, toilets, showering, our own.
Sorry.
I'll just adjust my volume. Then in order to get this certification, which is very light, you may be familiar with the Energy Star program. It's a voluntary certification where you receive a plaque once you meet the criteria of the program. So homebuilder works with a quality assurance provider and an inspector, and then the St. John's River actually issues the final certification for the program. We're working closely with South Florida and Southwest Florida Water Management Districts, who will issue the certifications in their districts. Within the next month or so, they will most likely be joining us in this endeavor. And there is a basic points list or a menu of items. Another way to think of this is this menu or this points list. It's kind of like a menu of items a homeowner can use to retrofit if they're not going for water star. So when you're interested in saving water in your home, you can use the same points list without going for inspection and certification to change ways that you use water or retrofit an existing home. So there are a minimum number of points required. I mentioned already outdoors is our focus for the home. You can see that the minimum number is 70 points for the outdoors, 20 points for the indoors. We have a lot of builders who exceed this minimum number of points. Some of the builders are coming in just about at the 90 points. When we formally launched the program about a year ago, we had 5 builders who had assisted us in pilot testing the criteria. As of this week, we have over 30 builders who've signed on for various numbers of homes to participate in the program. So looking at the landscaping criteria, we borrowed heavily from the University of Florida program of flower yards and neighborhoods, which uses the concept of planting the right plant in the right place. As you know, in Florida, we've got a huge variety of plants, landscape plants that can be used. So the theory or the idea is to just choose the appropriate plant based on the soils, the location, sun, shade, and the like for the landscape, so that it can survive with minimal amount of supplemental irrigation. Turf grass is a very large component. To be involved in water star, you cannot have any more than 60% turf grass, unless you're using unirrigated drought-tolerant turf. And at this time, we're only allowing the hay grass to be used for the drought-tolerant turf. And shade is a component. We don't use as much water in the landscape as we provide shade in the landscape. So there are some points for shade also for natives. I will say, although the use of native plants is a component of the program, we're not mandating the use of natives. They are not always the right plant in the right place, but in many situations they are the appropriate choice. Moving on to irrigation. Typically, based on irrigation audits that have been done throughout our district, we're seeing about a 35% efficiency of irrigation systems in the ground, which is very poor. And in agriculture, we're seeing 70% and above, as far as 95% efficiency. This is our #1 area of focus and the area that needs most attention. So our goal is to achieve 60 to 70% efficiency with irrigation systems in this program. And we look closely at the spacing and uniformity of sprinkler heads with the goal of providing an equal distribution of water throughout the landscape. You can see in that diagram, frequently what we see in Florida is one area of the turf grass that looks perfectly healthy, and then this dry, crunchy patch in the middle that obviously isn't getting enough water. Most residents water more. So then they introduce fungal issues to the area that's overwatered, and the wetter area or the dry area never receives and never succeeds as a healthy turf grass. So in order to achieve this increase in efficiency in irrigation, we have provided a very long list of mandatory prerequisites to be involved in Water Star. I'm not going to go through these today. We might have some people sleeping in the audience. But essentially, this is the Florida Irrigation Society's best management practices on how to install a good irrigation system for Florida. And this has been quite challenging because most of the companies we're dealing with do not typically adhere to these BMPs. So we're working quickly to develop some training for irrigation companies to get them up to speed on how to install an irrigation system according to our prerequisites. Micro-irrigation is a component. It isn't mandatory. You gain points for using the drip or micro-irrigation in the landscape, in the bed area. And we look at regulating pressure. There are points for using pressure-regulating heads or a pressure regulator for the whole system. I think we've all driven landscapes where most of the water is evaporating off because of excessive pressure in the system. Also, there are points for reuse and for check valves. Typically, check valves are not installed. It's a little device inside the sprinkler head that prevents water from seeping out when the system shuts off. On a low-lying head, you can get 2 to 3 gallons of water seeping out every time you turn off the system. That's just wasted. A check valve in a low-lying head will prevent the simple modification to a system. All of these prerequisites would be, although they help and certainly assure a higher level of efficiency, if we don't ensure the scheduling of that automated timer is set correctly, we will continue to have an inefficient system. So a very important part of the program is ensuring that the timer is set, that the homeowner understands how to set a timer, and that the information about the timer is permanently affixed to the controller, as well as in the diagram you can see a zone layout that tells the homeowner where his zones are, if he has a soil moisture sensor, where that might be located, and other information about the system. We're encouraging irrigation companies to put their own information on this drawing, so we might get follow-up business and encourage homeowners to get their systems maintained professionally down the road after they move in. Then moving indoors, obviously we look closely at toilets, shower heads, faucets. We're following closely the guidelines of the EPA WaterSense program, which is in development right now. The EPA will be labeling, and already are labeling, water efficient fixtures. You might already have seen some of the toilets, the shower, and the faucets in Lowe's, Home Depot, various stores. You can now buy WaterSense similar to Energy Star products. All of these are optional point items. I will say it's hard to achieve WaterStar without some level of efficiency in the toilets. Appliances and water heaters are included as optional efficiency items. Although clothes washers are not typically installed in a new home, we've given them very high points because they are a huge water user down the road, and we'd like to see builders think about installing them to ensure efficiency in the home. Leak prevention is a component of the indoors. Probably the #1 cause of homeowner insurance claims in Florida is leaks in the home. So it is prerequisite or mandatory to be involved in the program to provide armored hoses at the appliances that a builder installs to prevent those leaks. I think many of us have probably come home from vacation and had a burst hose to a clothes washer, and it's not a pleasant sight. The use of an armored or reinforced hose will prevent that. It's pennies in comparison to the use of the rubber hose. Innovations in the green building industry are very popular and a huge area at the moment. There are new products on the market every day. These are some examples of innovations that have received points. And there's a product, a GE Eco-Imagination, which tells the homeowner how much water and energy they're using at any given time in the home. It's a display unit that's placed in the kitchen. Cisterns, whole house cisterns, smaller partial cisterns for the home will receive points, as well as recirculatory systems on the water heater to ensure hot water is delivered efficiently to the shower heads. Since we launched the program last year, we've experienced some unanticipated interest and success. The program has grown very quickly. We've had several organizations and governmental agencies either adopt or recommend the use of Florida WaterStar to ensure water efficiency. The Northeast and East Central Florida Regional Councils recommend the use of Florida WaterStar on all DRIs. And a couple of those have passed, and then the county decides if they will move forward. The local ordinances have encouraged the use of WaterStar, and in some cases offered impact fee reductions or some kind of viable incentive for a builder to participate in the program. In the future, we will be developing an upper tier, and the current tier of the residential program is silver. We are have a draft gold tier for the overachievers in the community who like to get the higher points. We're working hard on a draft of commercial. We have 5 different commercial entities wanting to certify. A lot of these recent developments are by demand. We had not planned on expanding the program this quickly, but commercial building is still growing in Florida, and we've had a tremendous interest in developing commercial criteria. So we have a couple of banks. The Orlando Utility Commission will be pilot testing a commercial criteria on their new facility downtown Orlando, as well as a 700 apartment complex in Jacksonville. We're at the early stages of developing a community-wide criteria for WaterStar, which we'll be pilot testing in Lake County, a large development that is going to try and maximize water savings throughout the development, as well as incorporating low-impact development strategies to minimize their impact on water resources. So we're looking at water quality and water quantity in the community approach. We anticipate that will take several years to develop. It's very hard to measure some of these. So we're taking that component of the program relatively slowly. We do have a website which will tell the public a lot more about the program, how to get involved in the program, how to learn more, as well as how to become an inspector or a certifier for the Florida Water Star program. And I believe that is the last of my slides, so if you have any questions, I'm more than willing.
Well, I'm delighted that you came to present this to us this morning. We will certainly try our hardest to be good consumers of our water and, you know, try to back off and not consume so much. Good management practices. Have you ever talked to DOT about the plants they plant in the roads?
You know, I haven't.
That would be a good strategy, I think.
Choosing right plant, right place in the irrigation. Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair, I had the opportunity to have this presentation by the St. John's super intern, Mr. T.J. Adams, did this presentation, and so whenever I saw it, this clearly fit into our efforts as a community as far as some of the green issues that Commissioner O'Brien has brought forth, and this is clearly one of those things that I think we need to advertise and to put up for information, give a link to from our website to yours. And I see Amy is out there. Amy is trying to do some green building also. And this is just one of the things that I think is going to be, it's clearly a trend, and the sooner we get started, the better off we'll all be.
And I'm sure we have some Gold Star overachievers here, too.
I'm sure you do.
And we might even have some platinum candidates.
Oh, we're not ready for platinum. I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. And we would appreciate any encouragement in your county that you can give this program.
Well, we will do that.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, just one thing, and I met with Mr. Adams as well, and one of the issues I identified is I've been talking to a lot of homeowners lately about how long it takes to get hot water to their shower, and people are talking about having to run the water 2, 3, 4 minutes, and that's just all wasted water. So we're going to try to research with the building industry, you know, if they can use recirculation systems or on-the-spot water heaters or something to reduce that wasted water, because I was shocked how long people say their water's running before it gets hot.
That's right. We've explored a couple of options with that. Unfortunately, a lot of the recirculating and on-demand systems also use a lot of energy. And we're trying very hard to be aware of this energy-water nexus. When you waste water, you waste energy, and vice versa. Right. So we try not to encourage systems that also are very energy inefficient. And there are a couple of products on the market, on-demand systems, that will get the hot water there quicker. Ideally, central placement of the water heater, so those lines are shorter, and manifold hot water systems where the hot water pipe goes straight to the end source with no turns, which reduces temperature and speed, are ways that a builder can approach that. Those types of components will be added later in the program. That's a pretty large behavior change in typical building practices to develop them. So we are looking at that.
I'm sure there's a solution to it. And the other thing, can you get me the information on that did you say it was a GE monitor?
Eco-imagination, yes.
Yeah, could you give me the information on that?
Absolutely, we'll forward that to you.
That would look pretty good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Come again anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Anyone like to pull anything from the consent?
Madam Chair.
We'll back up before that, please, for approval of the minutes. I overlooked that.
Move to approve.
May the 20th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, consent.
Madam Chair, item Q.
Okay.
And then item S, I guess, for clarification.
We have a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda as amended. Oh, I'm sorry.
You want
No,
something?
okay. No, we're fine. And
S
what has
and Q.
happened, items J
J's been pulled.
We've been.
and as well?
We've already done that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Have a motion?
Moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you. Peter?
Yes, Madam Chair. Item Q is the Public Works and their GIS system. And my biggest question here is, this is going to be taking all the street signs in the county and mapping them and putting them in the GIS asset management program. And I understand this can be a useful tool down the road if we need it, but my question right now is, given a tight budget year, is this a public health, safety, and welfare issue? And also, this is work order number 1 for $17,000, but I'm sure there's got to be a work order 2 and 3, and you know what the total cost this is. And again, is this justifiable as far as critical and necessary to public health, safety, and welfare?
Yes, Chris Moore, Assistant Public Works Director. We have looked at the importance of the sign inventory, and what we feel is that in cases of emergencies, like in 2004 when we had we lost about 50,000 signs in the county due to the high winds, the sign inventory would have been real helpful in helping us get the contractors who came in to put the signs back up a better mapping of where the signs were to go. Also, there's many agencies involved in recovery. There's FEMA, there's DOT, FHWA, and they all pay at different levels. So it would have been real helpful and would have helped us to recover the placement of the stop signs and speed limit signs and so forth much quicker if we had the inventory. Also, in terms of maintenance, we feel it'd be a real plus to have the inventory if we could tell just how old our signs were, because over time the signs start to lose their reflectivity, and we'd be able to track that kind of information and know when to replace certain signs. And then also in 2009, next year, there's going to be an update to the MUTCD, which is the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and the feds are going to start requiring counties to track things like reflectivity so that we know when signs start to wear out. So having an inventory or an asset management type list of signs and being able to map them would really be helpful. Is it critical? Probably not. I mean, many counties have lived without inventories for many years, but it's almost becoming a necessity now to manage the assets that you have and to be able to react to things like hurricanes and emergencies.
Chris, do you know what the subsequent work order is going to be? Because this is just to kind of set up the program and a couple reports. What's the cost going to be to go out and tag all these signs? Do we know?
Well, we haven't negotiated a contract yet with. We're actually asking the board to let us go and piggyback the Martin County or City of Stewart contract with North Star Geomatics, who has experience in this field. We haven't negotiated a cost yet, or how much of the county will be able to cover, given the budget that we have. So we'll have to come back to the board with an actual contract. But other work orders would include the stormwater, the NPDES requirements for stormwater, and then we'll have a lot of other GIS applications that would come down the road. But we would have to come back to the board.
Can you get a hold of Martin County and get from them what they've got into this, and before we approve this? Because I see a real bigger number coming after this number.
Sure, we can categorize them by type of inventory and get you a number based on.
And I guess the other thing too is just make sure that critical things like, do we have all the fire hydrants plugged into the GIS? Do we have all the addresses linked to 911? And critical things like fire and sheriff response, and are all those things done first before we worry about a street sign?
What they usually do in the data collection phase, they'll go out and collect all of the data that we could ever possibly need, and then what they'll do is they'll extract them piece by piece. They'll start with the sign inventory, and then as we need other things, they can extract that data and get GPS points for every item that we want. But we wanted to start with the sign inventory because that was a clean, easy thing to do. But we can come back with
I would prefer if we could table this, move that we table that until staff comes back and we have the full sure. price and picture of what we're doing here.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion?
I just have one question. Did you say we lost 50,000 signs during the hurricane?
That's correct.
Do we need all those signs?
If you want a safe county.
Yeah. You got to remember, there's a lot of different types of signs: speed limit signs, street name signs, stop signs, all kinds of warning signs, pedestrian signs. It's just too many to think.
I can understand that, but I mean, I never even, I didn't think about it. I never, 50,000 signs in our county that were lost.
I'm pretty sure half of those are stop signs around the mall, about 25,000 in the mall.
You find a lot of them in canals.
I know that when I was with the city, that we did periodically go around, because signs sometimes just multiply, and reassess, do we need the signs, or the duplications, and are you going to do that part of it too?
Right, and that's where the inventory would help us. We'd
Yes.
be able to look at a mile of road and say, well, geez, we can take out 2 or 3 signs and kind of get rid of some of the clutter.
My experience is you never take it out, but you always put them in, and so they just start multiplying. So that's a lot of signs, 50-some thousand.
I don't doubt the intent of what we're trying to do, but I think that Commissioner O'Brien's question is very good and one that should be answered. And if we have the opportunity to know exactly how much more is coming on this, there's nothing wrong with us pacing ourselves in this, because we're not going to have any more hurricanes this year. So,
can I quote you on
you
that?
can,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll bring it back.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We'll see you again soon. Next, Peter?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is a necessity of a take resolution for right-of-way acquisition. And I guess I just want to make sure I'm clear in my mind. We're filing a lawsuit in eminent domain, and we need to file an order of take, but we have already reached a mediation agreement. So are we just going through a formality here, Marion? Or
Yes, Commissioner, that's my understanding, yes. But Mr. Zito attended the mediation. He could better speak to that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Zito, Assistant County Administrator. That's correct, Commissioner O'Brien. We did attend a 10-hour mediation, resolve the purchase and sale of the property, and this is a formality to go forward in order to deposit the funds into the registry of the court. It's an easier way to settle all outstanding liens on the property, and also acquire title to the property through eminent domain in the abundance of caution, so it doesn't hold up road construction down the road.
Okay, so this is kind of I guess you could call it a friendly eminent domain, then we've already reached an agreement.
Yes.
And we're just going through the paperwork.
It's the only type of eminent domain action this county has filed in a long time.
Okay.
We refer to them as friendly lawsuits.
That was good. I move to accept staff recommendation.
Second that, Madam Chair.
Any further discussion?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you very much for that explanation. You got your mind clear now on it?
I'm a lot clearer now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Public items, we have a public hearing, mining moratorium ordinance extension, memorandum dated June 3rd, 2008. This is legislative.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is the second of 2 required public hearings. In January of 2008, you adopted a mining moratorium by ordinance. That moratorium is set to expire on July 10th. You've held a series of workshops, but it's clear that the regulations that you're looking for are not yet ready to be adopted. Therefore, you had authorized our office to prepare an ordinance to extend the existing moratorium. I do want to draw to your attention that in the ordinance before you on page 164 and 166, there's a date change. The document reads January 7th. The date should be January 10th. So the moratorium will be extended to or through January 10th, 2009. Again, this is a public hearing. We ask that you open the public hearing, take public comment, and move to adopt the ordinance with the 2 date changes as presented.
Thank you very much. Any questions of staff at this point? If not, I open the public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to speak? Please come forward, name and address for the record. Good morning.
Morning. Fred Mensing, 7580 129th Street, Sebastian, Indian River County, not the city of. I have concerns of extending this thing out for, I believe it's 6 months. I think a 3-month extension and put it on some kind of fast track. With the higher costs of transportation of this type material, your desire to invite industrial development into the community, you need to have some sand mines that are operating safely without destroying the neighborhood they're in. but this needs to be fast-tracked, and I think a 3-month extension with the possibility of doing this again in 3 months if there isn't sufficient progress, but this is something that doesn't need to be left on the back burner. It needs to be moved ahead if we are going to be asking industry to come here, and if there is a turnaround in housing, you don't need to have some trucker paying $1.70 a mile or actually it'd be half of that, but going to and from a pit paying $1.70, for fuel, and have to go, say, from Indrio Road to Sebastian. I'm being extreme, but we need to look at this thing so that the businesses are scattered, they are diverse enough in ownership, that they are price competitive, and that they do not, harm the environment or the neighborhood for any period of time. But this can be put on a fast track if the commission would so do order, and I think 3 months is more than adequate to hold the hearings, get the people in, and review the information if you're on a fast track mode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Would everybody please turn off their cell phone? This has been a second incident with the cell phones. I'll put them on vibrate. Thank you very much. Yes.
Question for Councilor Fell. Is there anything that would preclude if the P&Z's study and actions were to be concluded at an earlier stage, that we could not bring this back earlier and not wait or endure the entire 6 months?
Yes, Commissioner, that is correct. This ordinance clearly states that it is subject to earlier termination. So the January 10th date is the maximum, and staff is proceeding in accordance with working with the Planning and Zoning Council to bring the workshops forward and also bring the regulations forward to you, but certainly within this time frame.
And I know that they're putting in a lot of hours into this study,
yes.
And we'll be awaiting their total package, and we will be able to bring it forward as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Continuing on with the public hearing, anyone else like to speak to this item? Name and address for the record, please.
Susan Boyd, 8025 24th Street, Vero Beach. I think in interest of fairness, I should say that I'm also a candidate for County Commission. I do live in the neighborhood affected by a mine that's now under the moratorium, and I think that it's very important that we keep the moratorium until we really do have all the facts, until we understand what good regulations. I am interested to hear that it could be fast-tracked under this ordinance, so I think that that's eminently fair. So I urge the commissioners to vote in favor of extending the moratorium. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. What is your pleasure?
Madam, I move staff recommendation as date amended.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. As in the past on the other one, I feel the need to abstain from this, with my brother having an active say in mine, active being defined as permitted, but no dirt is turned at all. But yeah, but to be above reproach on it, I would like to abstain and fill out the proper paperwork on this.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Oh, with you abstained. And you'll fill out the paperwork. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We have a public discussion item, request to speak from Charles Wilson for the Imagine School regarding monthly update on progress of the school construction.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Commissioners, all you important people, as designated by somebody I know well. I'm here to deliver some good news and some thanks. I want to once again tell you how grateful the community is for your help and support in getting Imagine Schools started. We've had a great response from the public, and the public is waiting, the parents are waiting. I'm not sure the children are waiting for the start of school, but we're moving along quickly, and when you very kindly passed this measure, you asked to be kept up to date, and that's why we're here. I'm pleased to report that I have a bunch of pictures that I'm not going to show you. because I know you have a lot of things on the agenda today. It shows a lot of construction equipment and a lot of flat land and a lot of things being moved. But we're here just very quickly to tell you that things are moving along with the help and support of the staff of this county. We have it shows what we can do pulling together to move something along. In the quest for open for business, as the chairman has said, this is a pretty good example of open for business, because this is a project that everybody wants. The staff wants it, the public wants it, the commission wants it, the people that are building it wants it, everybody wants it. So it's a real good test of the system to see how long things take when everybody's for it. So I have with us today a couple of people, the engineer, the principal of the school, to tell you very briefly about the progress and how happy everyone is. And once again, everything was perfect actually until yesterday, and we hit something of a glitch yesterday. We'll try and solve that. And if you want to know what it is, we'll tell you about it. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and solve it. But right now, I'd like to introduce Joe Mills, who's the principal of the school, so he can give you some update about the kits.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Joe Mills at 6750 49th Court. As Charlie said, it's going well. Parents are excited. We have over 400 students enrolled right now. Very happy families, parents, grandparents. It's an exciting time for us. So we're in the phase right now of planning for the furniture, the technology, the textbooks, and we're just if you can just feel our excitement. It's kind of hard to explain here without coming to some of our parent meetings and stuff. We'll be scheduling another one in July. Anyways, with that, I just wanted to tell you that we're progressing well, and we're anticipating our opening in August, and we'll be updating you guys again and again. So, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Mills.
Yes, sir.
Just real quick, at the groundbreaking, we had some issues with some utility scenarios with Florida Power and Light. I'm assuming that those all have moved forward and we're good with that?
That was taken care of.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Now, our construction person can tell you what it's like to interact with the people, the staff members of Indian River County.
Good morning. I'm Dennis O'Neill from Balma Construction. Don't think you want to know my address in Michigan. We are a Michigan contractor, but we do employ local contractors as much as possible. All of the contractors we have on the job right now are Florida contractors. Several of them are from the Vero Beach or Melbourne area. Try to keep them as local as possible. I do want to express my thanks to the county. I do not have everybody's name. Eric Bland in particular has bent over backwards to be of help as we move through this. Of course, coming into a community from Michigan, we come into a Florida community, there are always things that we don't understand about the process and the procedure, and your staff has just helped us tremendously, even to the point where we don't have our soils reports yet, and Eric has allowed us to move forward with just forming in the underground utilities. Things that don't require the structural information that's necessary. So that's mainly my point, is to thank you and your staff for all the help they've been in getting this moved forward.
Thank you. Good luck again.
Finally, as the Imagine Schools is very proud of their students, and there is no amount of money too large and no amount of delay too long to trade for the safety of the children that are going to the school, and that is a consideration that is prime for the Imagine Schools administration. We are running into something of a glitch that came up yesterday having to do with the roads, but rather than deal with it today, what I'd like to do is to be able, I think we're going to try and get together with staff here in the next day or so to see if we can solve the problem before it becomes a major problem. But so far the weather's been good, the staff has been good, everybody's been good, and we've avoided any kind of difficulties, and thanks to you, we're going to get 400 laughing children in uniform in school in August. So if, with your permission, if we can get together and solve this one problem, we'll take care of that. And we'll let you know, continue to update you, because it's because of you that we're moving along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have some public notice items. Notice of scheduled public hearing for July 1, 2008, amendment to Indian River County Code, Chapter 214, State Road 60, interest share fee, memorandum dated June the 10th, 2008. That is legislated. We also have notice of scheduled public hearing for July 8, 2008. Board consideration to formally designate a 1/3 mile segment of Old Dixie Highway south of CR 512 as a historic road. Memorandum dated June 9, 2008, and that's quasi-judicial. Departmental matters. Public Works. State Road 60 between 82nd Avenue and 66th Avenue. County advance funding for widening State Road 60 from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. Locally funded agreement with Florida Department of Transportation, Amendment Number 1. Memorandum dated June 9, 2008. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Moore again with the Public Works Department. This item that you have before you today is an amendment to the locally funded agreement that the board signed back in January of this year. In January, the board agreed to advance $34.7 million to the DOT to construct the 6-laning of State Road 60 between 82nd Avenue and 66th Avenue. After we would lend that money to the DOT, they would go ahead and repay us over a 2-year period beginning in July of next year. After that agreement was signed, DOT finished up the 6-laning plans. They put the project out to bid, and it turned out that the bids came in far lower than their engineering estimate originally had estimated as. So the final result is instead of having to advance $34.7 million, it's actually going to be $23.8 million, and that's what this amendment is for, is to actually lower the amount of funds that the county would have to advance to the state. All of the other conditions of the JPA would remain intact. The payback period, the 8 equal payments would all be intact. This amendment, as I said, would just change the amount of advanced funds. To dovetail with this, we would also like the board to have staff go back and reduce the developers' fees, which are tied to this interest loss, and that would entail one of the items that you just mentioned, the public notice item to amend the State Road 60 interest share fee ordinance. We'll be bringing that back before you on July 1st. So our staff's recommendation is to go ahead and approve Amendment 1 to the JPA.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? May I have amendment?
Move staff recommendation.
Second, Madam Chair.
Any discussion?
Just, Madam Chair, I think this is a good thing we're doing here, and I think last week when we passed the pending ordinance to get that lower price down so that some work can get done moving forward is good. So I'm glad to see we finally got this price in at a reasonable cost, and I think the builders and developers that agreed to pay this lost interest share should be commended, because it's putting money back into the taxpayers' coffers, and they stood up and did the right thing. So I think it's good that we can get this lower, but I think they should be acknowledged for stepping up and agreeing to pay it.
And clearly, the entire community is benefiting. This is not for the builders and developers, but clearly it's the new individuals coming online that are paying for this. But as we have the opportunity for Piper to expand their facility, as we have the opportunity for the new library at IRCC, and then educational opportunities at IRCC, this is going to be necessary. And even though we're not going to have any more hurricanes, this is clearly a hurricane evacuation route too. So there's a lot more benefits to it than just benefiting one organization or sector.
And patience is prudent. Thank you, staff, for looking about all of this. May I have a motion? Do we have one?
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Utility Service, San Sebastian Springs Subdivision Petition Water Service, Indian River County, project number UCP 3014. preliminary assessment, Resolution 1 and 2. Memorandum dated June 2.
Good morning. Dan
morning.
Chastain, Manager of Assessment Projects. This is a petition-driven project to benefit some 143 properties. 12 of these properties in prior years have been fortunate enough to be able to connect it to the water system that back up to Gardenia and County Road 512. The estimated cost of the project is some $735,000 for the installation of the water system. Some of the cost being as high as it is due to the fact that there's a good bit of conservation area that's not included, yet we have to run the water mains by the conservation area to serve the other properties and install the hydrants. The property owners' letters will be mailed out after the adoption of Resolutions 1 and 2 today, and the owners will be invited to attend an informal informational meeting on the 26th at the North County Library. One of the resolutions would set the proposed public hearing for July the 8th. And staff request your recommendation or request your approval of adoption of Resolutions 1 and 2. Sorry.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? We have a motion.
Motion approved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Change order number 1 to IRC contract 2007044 with Wells and Water Systems, Inc. for the construction of wells number 7 and 9 at the North County RO facility. Memorandum dated May 27, 2008. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Eric Olson, Director of Utilities. Last September in 2007, the board approved construction of 3 wells at the North Water facility. During the process of evaluating alternative water supplies with the county, we also met with St. John's Water Management District, and in a letter to then Chairman Commissioner Gary Wheeler, the Executive Director of the St. John's Water Management District recommended to the county at that time to construct an additional 3 wells to bridge the gap between what would be considered needs for today versus what we would put together in the future. We did bid out in September the 3 different wells that are initially being constructed as we speak. We got rather remarkable bids, and in the process of this thing, we actually have all but constructed the first 3. In preparation for the next 3 wells, we did ask the contractor if he would give us a quote to construct the additional or final 3 wells out there. In addition to what was originally considered to be a very good bid, we got an additional discount of 10% on top of that. So that where the original bid was $818,000 for the first 3 wells, the next bid actually dropped down to $736,000. We did some cross-checks just to make sure that this represented a good number. Not only did we speak to the consultant that designed the wells, Post Buckley, Shoe and Jernigan, we also talked to Camp Dresser McKee, a consultant that works for us that does a lot of well construction. They both confirmed this is a very good price. You need to take this deal. So at that recommendation, we're bringing forward to the board a recommendation to go ahead and make this change order to build the other 3 wells.
Thank you. Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I got a question. The 3 wells, Eric, that we did last year, are they online yet?
They're constructed. They aren't online yet. We're actually looking to construct the piping between the plant and the wells next. That's the next phase on this. We look to actually have all 6 in line probably in about 10 months.
When that happens, how long before, I know we're monitoring a lot of the wells around there for agriculture, but how long of a period of time do you anticipate before we'll see if there has been an impact on them by these wells or not?
Based on the modeling that we're doing right this minute, we expect that probably it's going to take us another 4 or 5 years to see after the wells have been actually in place. The projections based on modeling by St. John's Water Management District and along with our own consultant on this thing project little or no impact.
Right.
But it's going to take us another 4 or 5 years to be able to really analyze it and say, okay, what did we really do on this thing? But the projections show little or no impact.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. County Attorney's Matters, eminent domain notices. Memorandum dated June 11, 2008.
Mr. Zito will be presenting that item for us, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Zito, Assistant County Administrator. Both Will and Bill are unable to be here today, so I'll attempt to present relevant portions of Will's memo and take any questions you may have on the issue. A few weeks back, doubts were raised as to proper notice being sent to property owners in which we sought right-of-way acquisition. The board asked Will to investigate the issue, and Will has issued a responding memorandum from which I will quote that the county routinely acquires property for a wide variety of public purposes and projects. Florida Statute 125 specifically empowers the county to contract for the purchase of real property. So the issue came down to whether a specific notice enumerating specific rights under the eminent domain statute was required to be sent when staff was initiating arm's length negotiations to acquire right-of-way. Although reasonable minds could differ on the interpretation of that statute, it was our county attorney's opinion that that notice was not required to be sent when the county was pursuing arm's length transactions, in as much as we acquire property under Chapter 125 through willing negotiations routinely. And the conclusion is that in the abundance of caution and to prevent any criticism, Will and Bill have changed their opinion now and will be issuing the notices in all cases to avoid any suspicion of overreaching. So having said that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Any questions of staff? I think that's a good move.
Yes, we just got to be cautious with it and do the right thing and be upfront. I noticed that the particular item that brought this up the last time, the sellers have asked to be released from that contract and to go through this process, or at least be made aware of the process that we have in front of us. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that.
Yes, sir. There's no objection to proceeding under the eminent domain statute. I think, and I can reserve Will's comment for when he returns, but the perception that it's overreaching is exactly the opposite. It's a more passive approach, a more, as Will puts in his memo, more user-friendly approach to inviting folks in to discuss our needs and what they are willing to negotiate if they're in fact in a posture to do so. If not, the eminent domain statute is a very mechanical process that we've yet to engage in this county, but we may have to going forward. So we want to do that as unegregiously as possible.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I would like to see, when we're taking people's property, I think they have every benefit of the doubt. And I'd like to see some kind of I don't know, it'd be a list or something to go with a letter. I mean, people read the letters, you know, it's a couple of 2-3 pages long. They get nervous, they get worried. And if there was something up there that said, you know, a list of, you know, here are your rights as this goes forward, and to let people know up front that when we go through this process, they have a right to an attorney that we pay for. And so they, first that financial obligation that would occur if they got an attorney disappears, because I think a lot of people are afraid, you know, I can't afford an attorney, don't know how much it'll cost. I just want it to be very, very, very clear of what their rights are. Second part of this is we run into a two-way problem here. The first problem is that I run into is that property we know we need sometime in the future, but and we have willing sellers that maybe want to sell their property today, get their money, and get out of here. And we drag it out for 2, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes, holding them at bay. I think we need to come up with a process that when people want to sell that property, the county needs to take that property and let them get on their way with their other business. We run into that with some of the businesses in town. The other side of that coin, obviously, is the people we were talking about earlier that may not want to sell their property. And those are the ones that I'm concerned that they know their rights clearly, and so they don't get upset about it. But it's a two-edged sword. I think that when we decide to take property, we come to an agreement. We need to get that property and as quickly as possible let those people move on.
Well, that's an excellent suggestion, sir, and we have revised the notice to include some highlights. You know, the legislature has put forth basically a notice that they require, and it can be very cumbersome to read. So we're going to provide the statute as backup, but also enumerate the highlights of their rights in a cover letter. But all correspondence initially, and I think that's part of the reason that Will and Bill decided not to send it until such time, you know, that it's created out of a prerequisite to filing an eminent domain lawsuit. So that's their interpretation. It's not required until you're ready to proceed in that adversarial forum. And it's because it's so cumbersome and wordy, they didn't feel it was productive to send it. So now we'll send it in every case, and we'll summarize it up front.
Another thing that might work is to have a contact person in the county with a phone number, so they can pick the phone up and call, like you or one of the attorneys or something, that could answer the questions that they may have.
And I will say that the existing correspondence always concludes with an invitation to come into the county and ask questions about their rights.
But I think if we were specific and they said, if you call Mike Zito at this extension, you know, it makes it a lot easier. They can read it, they can pick the phone up and go through it with you, or whoever would be designated by the administrator or our legal office. But I think it'd be nice to have that availability and encourage them. Pick the phone up, call us, and we'll go through this with you and explain it in detail.
Right. And when we send these letters, simplify the letter. Don't have legalese in it that's overly, you know, cautious.
We have a draft of a revised condensed version, and we'll include the statute as backup in case they want the long version.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I see somebody from the audience would like to speak. Good morning. We have a former county commissioner.
Good morning. I'm Ruth Stanbridge. I live at 4835 66th Avenue. A couple of weeks ago, when you were talking about the people that you talked to, it was myself and Mrs. Brown, who's my neighbor. And I'm encouraged that you are now giving the rights to the people. What they do with them is their problem. That's what they need to know, just like our former Chair has said, the Miranda rights is what we need to give to these people that are under the threat of eminent domain. They are under that threat. The minute you plaster the walls with their homes and a road across it, they're under that threat. And there's many roads in our county that have that design across the lands, their properties, their farms, their businesses. So they are definitely under that threat. The thing that I would like for you to do is, and we thought we would be here today to see a PowerPoint and a handout of the rules and regulations that you are using as you go through this process. Yeah. You have a resolution, it was in March of 2007, 027, which lays out the process. But I don't think you're following it. And if you look at it, you'll see that you're not. And I can testify as a homeowner, and my husband in the back, that they've not followed any of this with us. So I would like to know if you plan to do this PowerPoint, this handout, where everybody is playing with the same rules. Those are the rules that I think we all understand that we need to build roads. And as a former commissioner, I definitely know we need to build roads. And sometimes it does go through people's properties and maybe through their houses. But I think we could all live with that if we're all playing from the same rule book. The Florida statutes that we brought to you gives us the rights. It gives us other things. And if you're playing with different rules, we need to know about it. And we need to be, told up front about it. So it's bittersweet. You've done the right thing with the rights, but I think you've got to go one step further with what we need to know and how you're playing the game. Thank you.
Commissioners, we'll be happy to again review that resolution and fold it into our process.
Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, my name is Charlene Brown, and I live at 5145 66th Avenue. I guess what I am mainly concerned about is how this term of willing seller is being used. I would think under Chapter 73 that when the pre-suit negotiations are made, that a property owner has the right then to accept or reject or counter the offer. So I don't know where this separate category for willing sellers is coming in at. Perhaps Mr. Zito or someone could explain this.
We have a lot of willing sellers in the county for our smaller right-of-way acquisitions. We take a lot of corner clips. We buy land for stormwater and for drainage. And I believe that is how our two-path process had developed. This county generally has not gone down the path of condemning using our eminent domain power for a corner clip that we need to make a curve for a road right-of-way.
Let me say that I have spoken with several people in the county that you guys have purchased their property. And I don't think a willing seller is someone whose arm has been twisted behind their back and told that basically they have no rights. And this is the information that has come back to me. That's not a willing seller. That would be more of a coerced seller. I got a problem with that.
Well, I have to say, I've not heard of that, but we are revamping everything. So from this point on, we can't go back, but from this point on, if anyone has a problem, please contact us. We're here, we're your representatives, and that's all I can say to that because I don't have any names or anything like that. But we have listened to both of you, and we have tried to reassess all of this. And from this point forward, I hope that we will not have any problems. If we do, please let us know.
Let me say one more thing. I think just the fact that 23 property owners, you will reissue the notices, is to me a blatant admission that this was botched. And I'm kind of wondering where...
Will isn't here. He has had
I understand that,
death
but
in
I
his
wonder
family.
where the accountability is.
Well, until he can be here, I really don't think we have the expertise to answer this.
You don't have the expertise to answer whether anyone will be held accountable.
No. Don't put words in my mouth, please.
Madam Chair, if I may, it's a reasonable interpretation of a statute that Will made. He's retracted that interpretation in the face of criticism from you all, so he's agreeing with you now. It's nothing that's nothing's been botched. It's just that his interpretation has changed in light of input from the commissioners through your criticism. So it's the system's working for you if it makes a change that you prefer. But I think he made a reasonable interpretation of the statute. Also, let me say that county often targets properties that have a public purpose and benefit, and those properties may not be listed for sale. However, when approached, the seller is willing to negotiate an acquisition. And I could task Bob Keating to give you several examples in our environmental lands program and our bond acquisitions where the property was not for sale but was approached by the county for the benefit of the public good.
And Madam Chair, I'd just like to point out that as far as willing sellers, on the consent agenda was a lease extension for a resident on 66th Avenue where we had purchased his entire property, and we had agreed to lease him back the house at no cost until we were ready to move forward with the project. We have not started the work yet, so by this consent action today, we extended that rent-free lease for another year. I think that's where the county has worked with these property owners as willing sellers, and we've been very responsive to them, and I think this is a good example where we just extended that rent-free lease. We've bought the property, gentleman's still living in his home and not paying rent. I think that's fair.
I would like to ask one more question. I'd kind of like to know why the statutes of Chapter 73 are not sufficient. I am curious as to why the county feels the need to adopt your own procedure when the procedures are established by Florida law. That confuses me.
Again, a legal interpretation was that those statutes do not engage until such time as the county, through resolution, decides to move into an adversarial process that requires a lawsuit. And historically, this county's never engaged in that process. They've done it through arm's length negotiations. So until such time as we enter that domain, the legal opinion was it wasn't required. The statute begins by stating, before an eminent domain lawsuit is brought, you must do the following. So it's a prerequisite or a checklist that enables you to go into court. But it's a matter of timing as to when you engage that process. So in fact, in these cases, and some of the criticisms you've heard today about not following our own resolution, that criticism is that the process isn't moving fast enough, but it certainly doesn't suggest that anyone's rights have been compromised in this process.
You saying, Mike, that process will then move forward, that you will move faster, that these businesses that Chairman Wheeler was talking about will get some relief, and they won't be in limbo for 2 or 3 more years, or any property owners has then the option to settle with you or to go to court with you and not wait 5 years or 10 years or whenever you get around to.
Certainly. Anyone whose property hasn't been disturbed, has not been affected by a potential road project or a project in the design stage, if someone anticipates there to be a problem and is anxious about that, they're always welcome to come in and discuss.
No, your process says at 60%, you will then advise everyone along a stretch of road, and then you will go through a process that's 30 days, 120 days. You will go through the resolution of necessity, and if that had happened, part of us would be in court right now.
Again, the resolution of necessity is a precursor to a lawsuit, and we haven't moved that fast. In fact, when a road project is approved at 60%, that opens up a massive amount of properties, and we have a limited amount of staff to communicate with those folks, and we're doing the best we can to keep it moving.
I think that you do need to have some sort of demonstration, PowerPoint, something that will tell people that are sitting along 43rd and 27 and 66 what is happening along those roads and at those intersections. This is way too much to expect people to sit and wait and be in limbo for years at a time while whatever process you're using is accomplished. And you said that we would have this on the 17th, so hopefully in the near future you will have the staff up here to explain their process and how they're arriving and how they're interpreting the law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm William Harris. I live at 5335 8th Street, Vero Beach. I own property on 66th Avenue. And I received a letter from the county back in March '07 stating that, among a lot of other things on all of this, page after page, that my attorney was such and such. And I know nothing about that. I said, well, to myself and to my family, why is the county assigning me an attorney? We don't know anything about this, and we want to know what's going on. Well, we put that aside. This was last March over 2007. As you can tell, I'm nervous. I'm not used to talking like this. So anyway, back in August of last year, my family received notice from the county, a proposal to, I call it a contract, to sign, and in that stated that if we sign this, so forth and so on, we would have a check from the county for X number of dollars within 4 or 5 weeks. And nothing was said about, and then in that letter also, in that contract, it stated that the seller, which is us, me, have to pay our own attorney fees, and if we have an appraisal fees and so forth. We know nothing was said in there of what our rights are. We knew nothing about all of this. We contacted an attorney friend. He said, wait a minute, there's something going on wrong, that you have the public, in a case like this, where they're taking some of your property, they want to buy your property, then the landowner has a right to hire his own attorney, number one, and also you have the right, because the county then has to pay for your attorney's fees and other fees. Nothing was stated in that contract that was sent to me and back in August of last year. I wanted to know, number one, why did the county assign an attorney to me? Not, I don't know the man, I don't know anything about him, and his law firm is over in Orlando. Number one. Number two, why did I receive this contract to sign and receive X number of dollars without telling me what my rights are?
Sir, let me say that the county does not assign attorneys to private property owners. I suspect, but I cannot confirm, that what you received was in fact a solicitation letter from an attorney attempting to represent you out of Orlando. We held some workshops where we discussed with individual property owners how the project would affect them, and they are typically attended by property owners' attorneys in the eminent domain field in order to display their credentials and acquire clients. And perhaps he received that letter in response to a workshop. I can't say.
I did not receive it from an attorney's law firm. I received it from the county, period.
Yeah,
It's county stationery on county, and it said a whole lot of other words in there. I don't have a copy in front of me.
Let me just say, Madam Chair, with respect to individual documentation, I would be happy to review that with you and or an attorney who represents you and address your individual concerns at your convenience. Just
It's hard for us to sit up here without any...
I understand that. I just want to bring it out to the public to let you all know, and whoever is in the audience, that what took place to me as a property owner. This is Public Works Department, so forth, March the 13th, Harris Grove, that's me, and so forth and so on. William Napier signed this, on and on and on. And it says in here, the client represented by Raymond McGuire, right down here on page 2. Client, it says, whereas the client is represented by Raymond McGuire, the law firm of so forth in Orlando, Florida. Whereas the county...
It's really hard for us to understand this if we don't have a copy of this. If you, and we appreciate that, if you would please give a copy to our attorney here.
I'll write a copy of it and we'll do it.
Madam Chair.
I'd like
I've seen some of this. I think what has happened is because the firm was representing several people, the Public Works may have assumed he was one being represented by them. I'm assuming.
Well, we don't want to sit up here and speculate what you have and what's going on.
Well, I appreciate your time and your patience. I just wanted to bring this out to the county commissioners and to the public as to what took place in my case. There may be others out there of the same situation.
Sometimes we also receive notice from attorneys that they're representing these people, so that's it.
Yeah, in fact, they provide a master list, and perhaps the gentleman's name was on the list.
Interesting to find out.
Again, I encourage folks to come in and address their individual questions with our Public Works Department and our attorney's office. I'd be happy to make time for them.
If I could.
Yes.
Madam Chair, having seen just a little bit of what happened and a tremendous amount of people I'm going to call, don't take it wrong, but old timers that have been in this community for a long time, Mr. Harris, Ms. Brown, as well as the Stanbridges. There's clearly a tremendous opportunity for us to do things better. I don't think that anybody disputes that. And I really do like the opportunity to see it one more time before it goes out, because this is a very sensitive subject as far as the government being perceived as taking somebody's property through an eminent domain process. And to see to it that, in my opinion, that it's got the proper human element that we can have to put on this, so that it's not confrontational, not as adversarial, so that it's not a slap in the face as soon as you open up a registered letter. Right. I would really like to see this come back as that PowerPoint that Ms. Stanbridge has suggested, so that we could put a little temper.
That's a motion. I'll second.
It is a motion. Thank you.
I'll second it.
But for just the explanation, we don't want you to go away thinking we weren't prepared today, that we have a death in the family of our attorney. and so that's why he isn't here. And we will be happy to reschedule this when we can all listen to what everyone has to say. And I thank you for taking the time to come, and I hope you will come again.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow up on what Wesley just said, and I was kind of expecting something along those lines, but today. But I think, eminent domains and taking property over the next several years for road construction is going to be humongous in this county. And I think it'd be nice to have a presentation so we all clearly understand the process and the public understands the process, and it's a matter of record, so when people come in, they could actually give them a copy of the PowerPoint to look at, plus a number to call to ask individual questions. I think we ought to give the property owners that we're taking property from every benefit of the doubt.
And I think you have a 5-0 on that.
Good.
Let's vote officially. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good. And if you'll relate that to Will, please.
Yes.
We have one more matter. Interlocal Service Boundary Agreement, Sandown Extension, memorandum dated June 12, 2008. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners. George Glenn, Assistant County Attorney. I have a slightly updated version of the stand-down renewal than what is in your backup. I will pass that out to the Commissioners now. This slightly amended version has 2 changes. Those changes are signified by arrows. I will explain those changes in just a minute.
He can pass. Just hand it. He can pass it down. We're tight for time. Is he getting grumpy?
No, he said he wanted mine.
I never get grumpy.
Commissioners, as you might recall, on May 22nd, 2007, this board passed a resolution to enter into an interlocal agreement with the other municipalities to enter into a stand-down while the interlocal service boundary agreement process was about to start its negotiation process. This is a stand-down renewal. The first stand-down lasted a year and is set to expire on June 29th. This stand-down renewal is set to expire on October 31st, 2008. There are 3 small changes that I'd like to go over, and then I'll explain the 2 changes that you've seen in your documents that just got handed out. The first change is that now there's a set expiration date of October 31st rather than the original stand-down just called for a 1-year stand-down from the date of recording. The second change in the agreement calls for eliminating a provision prohibiting an increase in height or density outside the urban service area boundary. That was a request by the City of Fellsmere that we eliminate that provision. The county agreed because it's our interpretation that that provision had only applied to the county and had not applied to any of the cities. I think Fellsmere took the safe position that they wanted it eliminated just in case someone tried to apply it to their previous annexations. The third change was also a request by the City of Fellsmere that if they agree to enter into an additional stand-down period to October 31st, that we would waive a requirement of Florida Statutes 171 Part 2 that allowed a party to the agreement to enter into dispute resolution pursuant to 164. In essence, if you're in the interlocal service agreement process and the parties can't come to a agreement, the party has the right to go ahead and call for a 164 proceeding where you say there's an impasse and it calls for going and having a joint meeting with the public bodies, possibly going in front of a mediator. That process is roughly 90 days, and so Fellsmere said if we're going to agree to stand down until October 31st, we want to waive having to go into that process should this fail to reach an agreement, the interlocal service boundary agreement process. Those are the 3 changes from the original renewal, from the original stand down that we passed a year ago. Now, the version I submitted to you contains 2 changes. They are very small changes. The first change is on page 2, and we actually just modified the title for paragraph 1 where we took out any reference to height or density because we had removed the provision, which had been C, that said you could not increase height or density outside the urban service area boundary. There was no reason to have any reference to height or density in paragraph 1's title, so that's a small change. The other change is on page 3 where we added paragraph 7 by the request of Felsmere, which waived, again, waives 171, the interlocal service boundary agreement process that says if you can't come to an agreement, the party has a right to declare an impasse and go to 164. So that second change is just adding the language requested by the city of Felsmere that if they agree to hold off to October 31st, then they don't want to have to go into a dispute resolution process should any of the parties to the agreement call for one. So this agreement really, as far as what it limits the cities, it pretty much prevents them from annexing any more land outside the urban service area boundary to October 31st. And that's all the stand down will do as far as regulating the cities to the agreement.
Peter, do you have any questions?
Just my only concern here, George, is item 3, the grandfathering clause. Originally that applied, said this agreement does not apply to any annexation applications been submitted before May 1st of 2007. Being that's well over a year ago, there shouldn't have been any more new applications. So is there any reason why we shouldn't just strike that whole grandfathering clause?
There are no applications outstanding, but I would still want to keep it in because say there's a gap between this agreement, stops becoming effective on June 29th. Now, say for some reason there's a gap where a municipality can't actually get it to their board until say July. If you have this date in here and they pass it, it's still locked back to that May 1st of 2007. If you strike that, then technically there might be a gap for which applications could be submitted that they could process. So that's why I'd like to keep that language. It sort of sets a benchmark that if it wasn't submitted prior to May 1st, it's not going.
Okay, that's fine.
Commissioner Fletcher?
Madam Chair, I have no question of the council's work or the updated agreement, and I believe it's a very necessary document as we move forward in the interlocal agreement, and I would be happy to make the motion to approve as posted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Davis? Wheeler? Okay, you have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, and we will take a 10-minute break for captioning. bring the meeting back to order. We have 2 items left. I have an item under My Matters, Enterprise Development Zone, Memorandum dated June the 11th, 2008. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Helene Castletine. I'm the Economic Development Director with the Indian River County Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for the opportunity this morning. We're going to talk just a few minutes about the Enterprise Zone program. I also serve as the Enterprise Zone Coordinator for the county. As you might remember, the Enterprise Zone, our Enterprise Zone, was designated in October of 2005, and that was through a joint application between the City of Vero Beach and Indian River County. The Enterprise Zone program is a tool, one of the tools that we use in our economic development efforts. It can be used to recruit, to retain, and to help local businesses expand their operations. The Vero Beach, the Enterprise Zone, the Indian River County City of Vero Beach Enterprise Zone, comprises the Vero Beach Airport and the adjacent Gifford community. There is a map on the overhead. It's about a 4.5 square mile area. The Enterprise Zone Development Agency, which is your advisory board, meets the second Thursday each month at 8:30, room 501B. Those meetings, of course, are open to the public. And as part of your backup material, I did include some overviews of what the Enterprise Zone program entails. And basically, they are tax benefits to businesses that locate within an enterprise zone. Tax benefits in the form of sales tax refunds on the purchase of equipment or building materials when renovating or constructing a new facility. They can also be in the form of tax credits, sales tax or corporate tax credits when creating a new job and hiring an employee who lives within the enterprise zone. I also, during the break, passed out brochures. Each of you have one, and there are some extra ones over on the outside table in the hallway that we use to promote the program. We also promote the program through guest spots on local radio and television. And lest I forget, Commissioner Flesher is our liaison to the Enterprise Zone Development Agency, and we appreciate his input and his support. Since the inception of our Enterprise Zone in 2005, we've met with many, many local businesses and those who are thinking about starting a business, who are inquiring about Enterprise Zone benefits. We'll sit down with them one-on-one and talk with them about the benefits that could be made available to them. We also make presentations to local nonprofit agencies, and we'll continue to do so, and certainly we're happy to do that as well. We also give reports to the Gifford Front Porch Council. The Gifford Front Porch Council was very, very supportive of our application in the Enterprise Zone, so we certainly want to make sure that they're aware of everything that's going on. Just to let you know, we did conduct a tour of the Enterprise Zone for our advisory board members so that they could be a little bit more aware of what those boundaries were. More recently, there was a walkabout over on 41st Street. One of the goals and objectives in the strategic plan of the Enterprise Zone is community enhancement as it deals with infrastructure. That area seemed to have a problem with flooding, and the Enterprise Zone board members actually went out there and walked the property. We also conduct workshops. We've conducted 6 to date, and I should mention too, we have one scheduled, mark your calendars, for July 24th. From 9 a.m. to 11, just across the roundabout over here in this building, just across the lobby. And that's a free workshop for anyone who is interested in finding out more about the Enterprise Zone and the benefits that could be made available to them. The one thing that you guys probably are most interested in is the job creation factor. There have been 189 jobs created since the Enterprise Zone was created in 2005. That's not including any recent jobs that Piper Aircraft may have created since the beginning of this year.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question about that? Helene, when you say 189 jobs created, is that 189 jobs created that are taken advantage of the enterprise zone benefits, or is that just?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Just jobs created.
Okay.
We are required as an enterprise zone to provide quarterly reports to the Governor's Office of Trade, Tourism, and Economic Development, and that's where those figures come from. We also provide an annual report, and copies of those reports are submitted to you as commissioners as well as to the City of Vero Beach City Council. They're also available to anyone who would like to have a copy, certainly. In terms of processing forms, since 2005, we processed 54 forms. A company, of course, in order to request a refund, there's a 3-page form for them to fill out. It's very easy. We've processed 54 of those. $1.2 million of equipment was purchased for use in the enterprise zone. That came out to approximately $55,400 in refunds to businesses located within the enterprise zone. There were also 2 forms processed that where a business requested a refund on building materials that they purchased to construct new facilities. A little over $1 million in building materials was purchased, and the refund on that was about $6,700. So I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I just want to make sure everyone is aware that we do indeed have an enterprise zone. There are benefits available to businesses and to homeowners too, who are located within that enterprise zone. And if anyone has questions, certainly they can call me at the chamber, 567-3491, extension 121.
Thank you for the update of how we're progressing on this enterprise zone. The targeted industries that are located or can be located there, can we add to that list periodically?
Yes, ma'am. The targeted industry list can be updated when the comprehensive plan is updated. We do have an economic development element, and the targeted industry list is included in that element. And in fact, your Economic Development Council and Advisory Board is going through that process right now.
Helene, Madam Chair, is Vero Millworks the most recent participant in the program?
They have participated in the program. They're not the most recent, but they have participated. They have requested refunds.
I've recently toured the facility, and the facility is spectacular, and pleased to know that it's in the enterprise zone. And in speaking with the proprietor, he made it very clear that that was one of the motivating factors to choose that location, was the amount of incentives that were available, thus returning back into our economy.
Right, right.
So, but a lot of good work is being done in the enterprise zone.
Helene, I have one question. Is the Dodger Towns in it, is the 9-hole golf course that the city owns in that?
The southernmost boundary for the enterprise zone is the main relief canal, so I believe that would be.
Oh, okay.
And 43rd Avenue is the western boundary for most of the enterprise zone, except for a piece that is between 41st and 45th Street. So I think that would be.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helene.
Thank you, Helene.
We have one more item. I think it's yours, Commissioner Wheeler.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I had gotten a lot of questions about the draft on charter government, and I'd been referring people to the website for the county, and then I got some calls that it wasn't available on the website. So I had my aide send an email to Scott, who I guess is responsible for the website, and asked that the charter draft be placed back on the website. And I also said that if there was any problem with this, putting it back on, please let me know. And it was put back on the website, and then it was removed again. And my request here is to have the charter draft that we had last year and tabled on May 1st of 2007 be put back on the website so that people can look at that draft and see what charter is about. So I'd like to make a motion that we do that.
I'll second that.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Can we have an explanation from the county administrator as to what happened. I'm not clear on exactly what happened and why you made that motion.
Okay.
It was on the website, and I was not aware it was on the website. I just missed it when I looked at it. And Commissioner Brown, you came in and asked me why it was back on the website, because we had taken off, and I said I wasn't aware. So I looked at it and thought, well, I better take it down because we moved away from charter government. We're working on an interlocal rather than charter. And I looked at it as that's what we should have up there, is most current what the board's voted on for information. So that's the reason I had it taken off, and because I wanted, it's very important that our website remains informational, has information for the public. And I don't want it to become a political website, and that's what I was concerned about, and that's why I did that. Because we're working on interlocal, I think we should have the interlocal agreement on the website, and we should have the stand-down agreement, all the current things we're working on. That was my reason for doing it.
Has that just like been permanently removed from any record on the website whatsoever? Or is it, can you go back to the meeting date and the agenda and all that kind of stuff to find out information about the charter? I mean, if it's information, I think really the debate is whether it's on one of the headlines or the banners of the county website, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
I mean, this is what
it's up to the commission, really. We try and control what's on the web. You know, we get a lot of requests, and we have to deny a lot of things because we want to keep our website informational. And that was just my decision. I mean, it's up to y'all if you'd like. I don't have a problem if you want to put it back on. It's up to the board.
How did it get on in the first place? I had never.
Well, we had it when we were discussing it. It was on there, wasn't it?
Not like this.
When we were discussing it before, we took it off after the board voted not to do charter government.
I haven't pulled it up on the website, so
we took it off when the board voted not to do charter government. Commissioner Wheeler's aide contacted the webmaster and said that they would like it on, and he put it on. And that, and so when it was brought to my attention, I took it back off because I thought it was an old issue. It was an issue that the board had voted not to do charter government, and that was just my reason for it.
Let me just, if I may comment on that. I'm going to read you the email that was sent on my behalf. Commissioner Wheeler would like the link with charter government put back on the website. It's a hot topic during the election, and several people have complained to him that they could not find the information anymore. If there is a problem with putting it back on, please let me know as soon as possible. And then that was sent May 19th. On
Whom was that sent to?
To the person, apparently Scott. I'm not sure.
Who is Scott?
Scott is the one I believe that probably runs the website. Is that correct, Joe?
Yeah, that's web. That's
okay.
Web manager.
On June 10th, Scott sent an email that said, "This is just for your information." He sent it to Joe and through Dory. I had already taken the charter off the site a while ago until I got this email. I'll go ahead and take it down again. But I just wanted to be, for you to be aware of the request below. The charter was on the website for quite some time, I believe, after it was tabled. And my concern is, and it's not a political website, I mean, this whole board is about politics. Let's be honest about this and doing a job for the county. And the charter has come up at every single place that we have spoken in the last few months going around and doing this. The charter is something that the public has about $37,762 plus invested in it. It's a public document, it's tabled, and along with the interlocal agreement or anything else, I think the public should have access to this. They can read both documents and decide for themselves what they want. But I just would very much like to see this. I mean, we're government in the sunshine. I think any information that the public has interest in should be on the website for people to read and comprehend for themselves and make decisions about.
I just always deal with three people. That's the county administrator, the county attorney, and our assistant. And I've never put anything on the website.
Nor have I.
But your assistant did?
No.
Well, how did it get?
It was a request. It was a request to put it on the website, to put it back up again.
I think there's a process we go through, and that's just...
Sandra, you don't have to explain the process to me. I think I understand it as well, if not better than you do.
Thank you.
Wasn't followed.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler.
Let me say that I'm concerned that if anything that's a hot topic during political debates, and I don't want it to become a political website. I want it to be an informational website. That was my concern. Look, it's hot topic during election. There's a lot of topics. I want a website to be informative, but I don't want it to be addressing every political issue and become a political website. That is my concern.
Are there any other topics that you can think of, Joe, that we spent $37,000 on that have come up that would be political? This is information. We've invested in that. I think people have a right to know, and I think they should be able to go to the website. I can't, for the life of me, I can't understand why you or Mrs. Bowden or anybody else would not want this information on the website for people to read. It doesn't make good sense to me.
I know you're upset about, I made the decision. I know you're upset about it. I looked at it that the board had voted not to do charter government, and I thought we should have the most current information on, which is dealing with the local agreement and the stand-down agreement.
They voted to table the issue.
It's up to you all if you'd like.
It was an attempt to kill it. That motion failed, and then the motion was made to table it.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm trying to separate that. Take it as if it is not the charter issue, just to look at it like it was any other issue. Right. Going back to the conservation easements or going back to any other issue. As far as it being on the headline, no, I don't think it should be at all. And well, that's where it was, wasn't it? Or is that? I mean, that's not. You should be able to go back to any meeting and find information, and that's where under the agenda of that special meeting, that's where it should be. And is it removed from that?
No.
I don't know that you can go into an agenda item. You can go in and look at minutes, but I don't know that you can pull up the documents from that agenda item.
I mean, and as far as other items that I vision, and believe me, I've got more important things to work on in this county than to worry about what's on the banner part of the website. But I mean, this enterprise zone, this is fresh information. Right. The Energy Star presentation, that means things that's fresh. Things that we are either fixing to make decisions on that the public can have and persuade and put their input in. That should be the stuff that they have access to. And I'm not saying to do away with anything that was public record. I think, quite frankly, I think that's wrong if that's really what has happened here. But I don't think that's what's happened here. I think it's basically moved from the banner or the marquee site to basically a regular agenda site. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
My understanding is at this point in time it's not available on the website and you can't get to it on the website.
No,
I think that's not exactly true.
Right. That's not my intent, and we need to fix that if it is.
No, that is not true. You can look at it through the minutes.
I think you can.
Okay.
And if you can go to the meetings and get it, I think that's all that anybody should be able to ask for. In addition, there were some leading statements before the document that said that we were considering this, and I think it was probably inappropriate to mislead the public by having that in printed documentation on a banner or available at the website. Most certainly, the document is available if you go back to the specific minutes at the meeting and pull that meeting up, because it was read by members who participated, which included I believe, several attorneys from the municipalities as well as 2 civilians that got involved in the process to put it forward.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This may be a good opportunity, something I've been wanting to do anyway or bring up, and this might be a solution, is can each commissioner, we all have our pictures there, can we just click on that and have a link to our own home page, so to speak, and then we could all post whatever we individually want to put there. We can put our schedules, if we're going to be out in the public somewhere, we can post that. I think it'd be a great idea. And then if Commissioner Wheeler wants to post the charter document there under his homepage, he can do it there, and it's not on the main page.
Well, I think this really is under the county administrator's matters, not under our matters. And
That's correct. And it sounds like it'll become a political circus at that
Right.
point.
I don't want to
things
have.
that I want or you want.
Well, but that's fine. If you want to put it under your name, you can put whatever you want there. I don't have any problem with that.
I would like to mention.
Can we take order? Anything else?
Well, I guess the question would be, one, is it possible? And two, if it is possible, I'd like to do it.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Commissioner, I do believe it is possible. I mean, I understand exactly what you're saying. Looking at it from a non-incumbent standpoint, almost, it's using the county's website it's getting close to the edge. I certainly see how I could use it to my benefit versus somebody that may be trying to pursue this seat. Right. I just would like to be cautious of approaching it in that fashion or that direction.
Simply because it's right before election.
Yeah,
we had done this 2 years ago or 6 months ago or whatever, but not right before election, that we have more access time.
I would love
anything
to.
I wanted to put under my website.
But I understand what you're trying to do, but I just think it's getting too close for me to support that.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. You said that you thought this was the administrator's responsibility to do this. I think that that's why I brought that forth, because obviously the administrator and I disagree, and this commission, with a vote of 3, give direction to the county administrator. And I've made a motion, and there's a second, that we direct the administrator to put charter back on so it's available. So I'd like to see that vote be voted up or down.
I think we're having conversation on it right now.
I'm fully aware. I've been studying here as long as you have. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And what you're saying, Commissioner, is in fact that the charter information is not on the website anywhere.
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
And if it is, it may be very difficult to find. But Wesley and I know Sandra and the people have been going to I don't believe I've been to one single event where we have spoken to the public. The charter hasn't been the question, right from the very first one. Right. That tells me that there's public interest in this. And whether people like the charter or not like the charter or understand or don't understand, they should have the opportunity with as much ease as possible to go on and read that document. It's a public document. It's of interest, and it's not political. It's something that the public is interested in and has been for the last year and a half.
Yeah, no, I don't dispute anything that he's saying there, but of course, not being a single issue candidate, I think it's important for us to have.
Nor am I, by the way.
No, I didn't say that, but just not being a single issue candidate, I think it's important for it not to be treated any different than any other issue that has come before us. I mean, it's time, quite frankly, for the Piper thing. I mean, if that's on the headline, I mean,
and that isn't on. We need to put that on.
Yeah, I mean, it's time for these things. And the interlocal agreement should clearly be on there right now because we're fixing to have a joint meeting. But to treat this any different, Commissioner, I can't support that. But if it is off the website and that information is not on there under the meeting or something like that, I will support you to have that information there. Just not on the banner side of it. But that's a spot for fresh information, fresh items.
I never mentioned and never even considered the banner item. I just want it on the website where people can go to that and look at that document as they would of anything else of interest. It's public information.
And it should be there. I mean,
it is.
Okay.
It is.
And if it's not, I mean, I haven't looked went back to whatever. I don't even remember the date of the meeting. But if it's on there, if it's not on there, it should be. And Joe, we need it on there.
Well, you want a separate link to charter government?
No, that's what I'm saying. As far as treating this any different than any other
anything
issue,
else.
I mean, it's
because in 1976 we voted it down 2-1, and that's charter government. I mean, this is not a new issue.
But if we're removing records from our website, I don't support that at all.
Fine. Just like any normal thing, but what is front and center is what's going on today.
Exactly.
And if anybody wants anything about charter government, any one of us, including the county administrator, will be happy to give you the CD or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not a big issue.
It's
on the website.
If the document is on the website, I don't have a problem with it. I know that the document was on the website until a few months ago, I believe, and then it was removed. I simply asked for it to be put back on so it's available to the public.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm asking.
It's in the,
Well, we attempted, I didn't attempt, I had someone attempt to bring it up, and people were finding it. Was it in the banner prior to being removed?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I have people that I knew it was on the website, and as we were going through it was on the website. People have gone to the website and looked at it, and then all
Was
of
it
a
on when you were chairman?
Yes,
Oh, that was a while ago.
yes, and it's been on much longer than that, too.
Listen, Madam
But
Chairman.
the
No, we have
bottom
to
line
move
is,
forward.
let me just make it clear. If it's available on the website, but the people that have gone there to look at it can't find it, those people found it earlier.
Was that a special meeting or was that a regular meeting?
It was a regular meeting.
I mean,
It's on May
it
1st.
should be right in, it should be right in
Yes.
that, in the May 1st then, agenda, and
And
it should be available, and if not, I support your motion to put it in that area. But, I mean, I don't,
I never designated or asked specifically for this to be in any particular place on the website, just available on the website.
well, if they remove something from the website.
It's in the minutes of the website. That's where it is. I don't know if you want
That's
more
where
than
it should
that.
be, and let's confirm that. I think
Yeah.
we need to confirm that, because if it's not, somebody's removed records from the website, and that's not proper.
Yeah, because I don't want to, Commissioner Wheeler, it's in the website minutes as, as of that date. Is that what you want?
I want the document.
You want the document?
You can go back and look at the minutes as to what the discussion was, but I want them to be able to click on and bring up the document so people can read that. The draft document, the draft that we spent $37,000 on.
No, the document was on.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the document that we voted against.
Yeah.
We did not support move forward. We need to move on.
Okay.
That was voted to be tabled.
And it was tabled.
Yes. It's still, it's sitting right here. It's just not on the agenda. I just don't understand why you don't want people to have an availability to read that.
Nobody's saying that.
Well, you're arguing awful hard for it.
No.
No, you're arguing
No,
very
you
hard.
are. It's,
Got a question up here. Sure.
Commissioner Wheeler has to go, has requested that we break for an hour and a half for him to go speak to the Rotary Club
Okay, I'll
unless
be
we
brief.
finish the by
I'll be
12
brief.
o'clock. So I just want to give you that.
My name is John Williams. I live at 1535 Smuggler's Cove, and I have been very much entertained in the last 10 minutes. It reminds me of what the Florida legislature has tried to do to the hometown democracy provisions for the people. You know, they often say in this country, and it's been true, hopefully, for all of my life and all of this nation's life, that the government closest to the people is the best government. But from what I see, I think representative government in this country is failing, certainly failing on the congressional level, failing on the state level. I hate to see it happen here, but it's happening here. I've got news for you, charter government is not dead in Indian River County. The opposition did a magnificent job of raising 8 red herrings and confusing the public about the issue, and thus won the day for the special interest. But it's not dead. And the interlocal agreement is not yet a factor. If the interlocal agreement is on, Mr. Baird, listen to me, please. If it's on that website with a specific title that you can go to, then ma'am and gentlemen, charter government. The proposed charter should have equal billing, because in the hearts and the minds of every citizen in this county, those two issues are prominent. And it's not political per se, it's us fighting for our future. Now, de Tocqueville warned us in 1842 that this system was very fragile, and he certainly was right. But if we've paid $40,000 for a study, and it was brought before the people, and the decision was made by 3 individuals that the people shouldn't even have the right to vote up or down on it, and went into what I call a sham scam which will fall of its own weight, of an interlocal agreement, then please give us the opportunity of going at least onto the internet and pulling it up and reading it for what it was and for what it will be, one way or the other, hopefully before I'm dead, so that maybe part of this county, with Mr. Mazziotti's participation, can be saved. But this is a right. This is a right that we have to have public documents that are in the public eye and essential to the public's awareness be made available.
I'd like to point out, I just talked to my secretary on the phone. If you type in charter government under the search on our website, it brings up all the draft documents, it brings up all the minutes, it brings up the draft charter. It does. So if you go, in fact, I'll take Mr. Williams after the meeting.
Yes.
We'll go up to my office. We're going to type in charter government. It brings all the drafts up, the draft we paid for. It brings up all the minutes, tells you the dates, and you can look at anything.
I don't know how.
And I'm happy with it.
And I don't know
That's
how
what's
much
on there
clearer we
now.
can make
What
it
it was
available.
before, it was
not
I thought it
being
was old information. I was a little concerned, and I apologize if I offended anyone, but it's still, it's, all the information is up there, and I'll take Mr. Williams up and show him so that he's satisfied.
I'm ready. Oh.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Ital Verone, and maybe for the first time in all the years I've known him, I would certainly disagree with my good friend Joe Baird. Joe says that he's keeping the website for informational purposes, and that's all we're asking. There may be commissioners here who are against charter. That shouldn't impact in any way what we do with the website. This whole thing has become sort of sleight of hand, in my view. I'm one of those who called Gary Wheeler and said, Gary, what was on the website a few days ago on charter is no longer there. What happened? Maybe, evidently, I and others that might have called him, and he took some action on that. I can only tell you this. If you make it difficult for people to really reclaim this information on the website, you might just as well take it off. And the real question is, why? Why are you not making this information available? Sleight of hand business on this county and the manner in which we operate should not be allowed to happen. So I ask you to please put it on in a manner, Joe, as it was before, which was easily retrievable. I even did it, and I'm not a computer expert. Thank you very much.
I'd like Mr. Baird to repeat what to do one more time. If somebody, Joe, could you go with that one more time? I mean, I don't know how much easier to make it.
You go in onto our website and you type in charter government under the search, next to the search button, you hit search and it draws the information up and you can click on what you want. It's got all the drafts of the different drafts by the consultant. It's got the minutes. And in fact, I'll go with Mr. Verone and Mr. Williams after the meeting up, and I'll show them how it's presented, because I think.
And I'm not that technology savvy, but that, I don't think that's sleight of hand at all. I mean,
because any topic we've discussed, you type it in. It's not always. We can't keep the same topics on the website forever. Clearly. And we rotate and try and keep them current.
Don't say website, because that infers we've taken it off of it. On the banner side of it, where you have the fresh items.
Right.
Before we leave, we have one more item, please. Solid Waste Disposal District.
Madam Chair?
What?
There was a motion and a second.
Oh, okay. Motion and second.
The motion is to, what was your motion?
It's out
It's
there.
on the website. I'm happy.
It's on the website.
Well, I want, he's happy.
He's happy. Okay.
So you have to control
Okay.
that?
What is your pleasure? What do you want to do?
You want to vote?
No, I think
Right, we've taken care of
this
it.
information is accurate. It's on the website. I'm happy with that.
Thank you. I want you to be happy today.
Thank you. I like that myself.
Okay, good. Under Solid Waste Disposal District, Customer Convenience Centers, a summary report on requests for proposals, memorandum dated June 9, 2008. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, Eric Olson, Director of Utilities, and we've also got the Managing Director of Solid Waste, Himanshu Mehta. I'll try to be brief, but back in January 22nd of this year, staff presented to the Commission consideration to go out for RFPs for bidding the convenience centers. There are 5 convenience centers located throughout the county. It's a service that's provided by the solid waste system, covered by the assessments. And in the process of this, the Commission gave us certain requirements, if you will, certain requests as we go through the process of developing the RFP. They wanted to have an assurance when all is said and done that the bidding itself recognized if in fact the companies had experience in doing it. They wanted to have some sense that in the process of this is the price, so as to not be in a position that 5 years down the road, if we change our mind, we find ourselves perhaps trying to catch up with where we would be if we were at it today. So we did, at the request of the Commission, we also went to the Utility Advisory Committee. We sought advice from the employees plus the committee and put out an RFP in the process. We had 15 people, interestingly enough, that actually pulled plans expressing an interest in the RFP. But what was really truly interesting, when the bids were actually open, the RFPs were actually open, we only received 2. And of the 2 bids that we received, one of which was a no bid, and that was from Treasure Coast Refuse, one of the local franchise haulers here locally within Indian River County. The other was Waste Management, another large waste hauling franchise holder. Plus one other bidder that did come from Fort Pierce. All Haul is a company that's typically in the citrus business. The next task that the county staff then was charged to do was review it in terms of the bid, in terms of the requirements of the bid. The prices that were submitted. All Haul submitted a price for the first year of $1,573,400. Waste Management, the only other bidder that submitted a price of $2.3 million. As the Commission may recall, in last year's budget, the one that we're currently operating right this minute, the operating budget for the solid waste convenience centers was approximately $2.063 million. During this budget year, the one that we're currently putting in for next year, the one that we've submitted to the county administrator for consideration, the actual budget is $1.92 million. We've actually reduced the budget and will continue to do so. In reviewing the bids, we did find a couple questions that came to mind. The first of which was when we looked at All Haul, the company out of Fort Pierce, they did indicate that they did not have experience in operating the actual convenience centers that we operate. Waste Management clearly had that experience. They do it nationally. That wasn't ever an issue. Unfortunately, Waste Management's bid was so high that it just was something we didn't want to consider in the process. So the first concern was that we didn't see any demonstrated experience within All Haul's bid for any type of operational experience operating convenience centers. There was one other issue that was a little bit concerning to us. We expected a single price spread over 3 years. That was what we looked for. In looking at All Haul's bid, it appeared to us, and we then actually asked for clarification directly from All Haul, but it appeared as though they were actually giving us unit prices. So we did ask for clarification in writing from the vendor, All Haul. 1, do you have experience in this type of business as per the RFP? They responded in writing in a letter dated June 2nd. They said, no, they do not have direct experience operating convenience centers. 2, what they also stated is that they're giving us bids on the basis of per unit prices to haul from the convenience centers. Staff was a little concerned with that. 1, the good side would be theoretically they would have less units to haul from the convenience centers, and that could theoretically be a lessening of cost. The one that really concerned us, though, was that there's no real incentive for the contractor to minimize those. Rather, if the contractor, through whatever process, submitted loads that were not quite as full as what would typically be considered, you actually may end up with more loads, and therefore the bid of 1.573 actually may be more than that. So staff looked at those 2 items, the lack of experience, the question regarding the individual unit price on this thing, and did not feel comfortable making a recommendation on that basis. Now, staff has also spoken to the members, and I have to emphasize there are 21 employees and their families associated with this process, so we wanted to be real clear that if, in fact, this project was privatized out, because we wanted to see if there's some savings, but we wanted to make clear that this was important enough that if we were going to lay off 21 employees, we wanted to make sure that we knew all the facts in the process. So subsequent to the analysis that A, the lack of experience, B, the uncertainty related to the line items, individual point prices related to the trucking leaving the convenience centers, staff is making a recommendation not to proceed forward with privatization at this time.
Any questions of staff?
No, I think it was very prudent for us to undergo this study. I know it was very difficult on many of the employees. I see Bonnie out there. She spoke with me several times, and a dear friend too. And so it hit close to home. Clearly, the taxpayers of Indian River County are serviced well by the convenience centers. I use them, and they're happy with the service whenever you pull up with your debris. And with that being the case, I do appreciate the efforts of our Utilities Department to put this forward to confirm to the taxpayers that in fact we are running a lean and efficient operation at our convenience centers.
Do you want to make a motion to deny?
Therefore, I move to approve staff's recommendation to not privatize.
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Until we go through the process like this, none of us know for sure, and now the 21 employees know for sure that you're doing a good job, and that the community and everyone, appreciates that. We've had a lot of letters and a lot of phone calls, but now we know for sure, and everything, works out usually in the end. I'm pleased that it did work out this way. Yes, Commissioner?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment too. Eric, I'd like to say thank you for the effort you put in this. Also, talking with the employees, working with them, giving them an opportunity to compete, and looking at this whole process the way you did in depth. I think it was fair, it was objective, and we've come to a good conclusion.
Appreciate it very much.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
As you know, I serve on the Utility Advisory Board as well, and I just want to say that the collateral gain is not how this motion is going to go, in so much as what has happened with all of those employees. During the Utility Advisory Committee meetings, the employees were able to attend. We were able to move that meeting, and they had some excellent ideas that are being brought forward. And at this time, I'd like to commend Eric Olson, Hamacho Meda, and Cindy Correnti for their open-mindedness and the support, because once those employees knew that there was an area that we can direct some cost-saving mechanism towards the leadership, they came out in bounds. And their information was just almost endless. I realize you have a lot of information to sort through from all these employee recommendations. After touring the facilities and speaking to the employees, I know that they're re-energized, and I believe that the taxpayer will directly save in the long run from their decisions and some of their recommendations that I've heard as well. So thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Any other?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd echo everything that has been said up here, and again, I know it's hard on staff kind of being put in limbo. I just want to also bring in, even though they were pulled from the consent agenda, there was 2 other bids for road mowing and maintenance and such, and again, it looks like our prices came in very competitive. So I think it's an exercise we had to go through, but I think it did prove that we are running pretty lean. We're spending the taxpayers' money wisely, and it is difficult on the employees, but this day and age of the budget, we just have to go through this exercise. But it's good to see in a lot of these areas that we are running lean. So again, kudos to everybody,
including Joe Baird.
Including Joe Baird.
Okay.
Thank you.
There being no further business, we call this.
Would you like to vote as well?
Oh, sorry. I'm closing this down too early. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.